Research is at the core of scientific advancement. It's also what helps the economies grow. And also, it helps high school students get into the universities of their dreams. You're watching Research Compass, where we give the direction to those who dare to explore. And today, I'm happy to announce that you're now watching the very first episode of the Research Compass podcast. I am your host, Jamshid Beg from Vanderbilt University, and today we have our first wonderful guest from Harvard. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Aziza Izamova, a Harvard PhD candidate of History of Art and Architecture. She also has experience working as a graduate teaching fellow at Harvard. Today we're going to learn about her experience as a researcher, as a scientist. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a big pleasure for us to have you. If you don't mind, I'll ask a few questions regarding your background, regarding your research interests and your projects. I think we can get started.
Totally, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Aziza Izamova, could you please tell us about your background, educational background, anything you want to share about yourself?
Right, so I graduated from school number 60 in Tashkent, ninth grade. That was in 2013. Mm-hmm. Then I went to Westminster Lyceum for 3 more years, and I took a gap year preparing for I already had IELTS, but I was preparing for my SATs and writing college applications. Mm-hmm. And then in 2016, I applied to 18 schools in America, and I didn't get into any single one of them. So my plan B was to start looking at schools in Europe. And I applied to this wonderful college in Berlin called Bard College Berlin. I got in, I got a very generous funding. So I was able to go there, and yeah, it was honestly the best school for what I wanted to learn, which was art history, humanities. Mm-hmm. And studying there for 4 years, I realized that I would like to do my PhD because I'd like to teach. Mm-hmm. And so during COVID in 2020, I applied for 7, I think, PhD programs, 1 master's in Cambridge, and again, didn't get into any single school except for 1 school that worked out, which was Harvard. And I left in 2021. So I'm here now for a year doing my research for my dissertation.
Right. So we have a wonderful news about the Research Compass. And if you want to know what that is, please watch our interview till the end. And I think we can get started with the first question I have on the list. And it says, what made you realize that you want to be a researcher, and when did it happen?
So that was at the same time with my realization that I'd like to teach long term. And honestly, it was just the classes that I was attending at Bard. So seeing my professors who have been teaching for 10 or 20 years to a small group of students, maybe anywhere between 8 to 15 students. You might get bored doing that every year, and it's like such a small group. But there is something about them and the spark in their eyes that made me start kind of ask around and talk to them and see what they think about what they do. And I realized that it's about the mutual kind of learning process. And research is also that in big parts, because there's always something new to learn, and in a way the more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know as much. And so the constant kind of questioning and the amazement at how many things the world has to offer it's wonderful, and I think we all learn our whole lives in a way. So research is just making it that bit more structured.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, amazing. Also, can you tell us about your first research project, and do you remember what inspired it?
Well, one of my first research projects was probably writing papers for college classes. I remember this one specifically. It was an intro to film class, so we would watch films like Star Wars, just movies from the 50s and the 60s, and write our papers on it. So my final paper was on this film. Maybe you've heard of it, Fight Club. Mm-hmm. And so it's not as easy as it seems. It's because it's a movie, you watch it, it's an entertainment, it's like Hollywood, Brad Pitt is in there, but it is also like there is some serious academic scholarship written on that topic. So my professor, who was really kind of strict about doing proper research, and he was explaining to us that, you need to have an argument and you need to have like a certain structure of your paper. So that was my first experience, which was really, really fun because the subject was so engaging. It was a film, but at the same time, it really taught me reality of, doing research, which is to slow down and actually take it very slow.
All right, that's amazing. I personally watched the film, and it was actually quite complicated. And I'm amazed by the fact that you did research on the whole movie. And regarding the research and being a researcher, what do you think separates a good researcher from a great one? Maybe some skills or the skill set, the knowledge, the implementation. What do you think is what makes a great researcher differ from a good one?
I think several things. So first of all, feeling fairly comfortable writing about a certain topic. That is both the blessing and a curse because, as I said, the more you learn, the more you understand that you don't know as much as you would have wanted to. There's more and more and more. So still, it's important to have at least some basis, be it, having language prerequisites to do research in this language or knowing the history of the region that you're writing about. That not only gives you more credibility, but it's also easier for you to navigate your research question and figure out what is it that you want to spend the next month or the next 5 years learning about. It's much harder starting from, scratch, although it's still, you can do this and it's real fun, just going into a very kind of new topic. But I think spending some time kind of learning everything without really, it's like they say in school, you need to learn everything because you never know when you're going to need this. So that is true. So learning throughout your whole life and then kind of seeing the results of it when you write about a certain paper is amazing. Second is editing, more practical reasons. So editing and polishing and, sending your paper to more than one person and not ChatGPT, like a real human being, because some things that are very obvious to you that you don't feel the need to explain might not be very obvious to other people. So for example, when I present my topic and I write about Soviet Uzbekistan, I have to explain to people where Uzbekistan is on the map. We start there, right? And third is probably knowing when to stop. So you can, again, research for 20 years, 30 years, your whole life. But sometimes you just need to get the project done. You have a deadline, be it a school deadline or a conference paper deadline, or just an internal deadline that you set for yourself or with your friends, with your peers. Maybe you get together and you say, okay, by Friday, let's have our outlines done. Just like having some sort of accountability really helps you produce the work that you need to produce.
Right. I have a very interesting question in here, and that question actually comes from the high school students who are very passionate about carrying out their first research projects, because the program or the project that we're starting right now has the majority of its audience as high school students or high school graduates who are trying to get into those dream universities in the US and beyond. They're doing their SETs and they're also doing their extracurriculars. They're trying to get internships and essays, of course, but on top of all, they're struggling a lot with their research experience. They're struggling a lot to reach out to professors and get approved for the assistantship position. Basically, the question says, if you could give one piece of advice to your 17-year-old self or to any high school student before they start their research project, what would it be? One piece of advice.
Before starting research project. I would say find a topic that is very exciting, because no matter how much time you have, and no matter how maybe weird or boring or unusual this topic might seem to other people, if that is something you're passionate about, you will find a way to do good research and write well about this topic. And then that will be the thing that makes you different from other people. Yeah, that's really the advice I started to follow, with my research as well.
That's beautiful. That's exactly what we are planning to teach. Finding a question that actually fascinates you, that makes you experience sleepless nights, even if you cannot fully explain it to others, as long as it matters to you, and as long as you're prepared to spend the following months, if not years, to explore it. I think that's a great way to show the universities about what you care about the...
Yeah, and listen, you might not always know what this research means or how it's meaningful or what the implications and the findings will be because you haven't done the research. And that's also part of, the reality of graduate students, of postgraduate students, when you need to apply for fellowships and you need to explain to people that I need this funding to do this sort of research. But the research hasn't been done. So really what drives your application for funding, for a position, for, a space like a college kind of, application, is your passion about this project. And it's really easy to see. So I've taught some classes and I can tell now when something is written with AI, with ChatGPT, or when something is just written just because it needs to be written, but the student doesn't care about it. So really college admissions people, they know what they are reading, so they can spot this spark right away.
I see. You've mentioned about your teaching experience, and the following question comes from me myself, because I'm also a very passionate teacher. I've been working in the sphere of teaching for a long while now, and I wanted to hear more about your experience at Harvard as a graduate teaching fellow. If it is possible, could you please share anything that you had gone through, any experience, maybe insights that you got through your experience at Harvard as a teaching fellow?
Yeah, right. So teaching experience is something that PhD students are generally required to do, just that the duration varies. So I taught for 2 semesters, 2 different classes. One was Intro to Contemporary Art, mostly American, and the second one was Intro to Modern Art, mostly European and a little bit of worldwide as well. And so modern art is something that I am trained in, so that's my narrow specialty. Contemporary art was very new to me as well. So those 2 experiences were very different, but very fun because of the people that I was working with and learning from. So that's the part that kind of brings me back to my first interest in doing a PhD, which was talking to my college professors and seeing how they are excited about learning from different students that they teach throughout the years. And similar thing happened with my Intro to Contemporary Art class where, we come to a museum and we were teaching in museums with like real objects, and not like on the wall. They kind of were like on the table, and we had a special art handler. So somebody who works at the museum who knows how to touch art in a way that doesn't damage it. And, they were flipping pages for us, or they were like turning the page around, or opening a box if we had like an object. And just seeing, and we just start talking about what we see, what's in front of us. And some of those observations that students had were really revelatory. They were amazing. And, I was learning so much from those students as well. So that's the thing that like keeps you going and makes all of the sleepless nights checking like homework and final papers really worth it. Yeah. And then for the modern arts class, it was a little bit different. It was a much bigger class. We had 100-something students and several teaching fellows. So it was a much more collaborative work where, you need to coordinate your teaching materials and make sure that what you teach is similar to what your colleague is teaching so that all the students are getting the necessary materials that they need for their exams. And I also learned that Gen Z, so Zoomers, they don't write by hand anymore. So yeah, that's a fun thing.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I see. All right. So we actually have endless questions, and I can also see that you have so much experience, so much knowledge that you can share, and we can keep talking for hours now. But we completely respect your time, and we're actually very happy for the fact that you decided to come for an interview and decided to join something that I will announce now. So, ladies and gentlemen, the news that I have mentioned at the beginning of today's podcast has finally arrived. We, the Research Compass team, are glad to announce that we have our new mentor. Aziza Izamova, a Harvard PhD candidate, is now part of our team. So, thank you very much for actually deciding to join. And as a last question, I want to ask, what makes you excited about joining our team at Research Compass?
Oh, so many things. I mean, for one, just seeing young people that are excited about research. You know, we had a little chat before the start of the interview, and just seeing how all of you guys are passionate about a very specific topic. And that is what, I was talking about, finding your passion. And second, maybe just having opportunities that I didn't have. I wasn't applying such a long time ago, like 10 years ago or less, but we didn't have those opportunities. It was very self-made, just like buying a book on Amazon and doing it yourself and figuring out what research is when you're already in college, when you're writing a paper for your film class. So it's hard, and having somebody to just explain what are the expectations when you start college probably will help a lot. So I hope that this information is also going to be helpful to students in Uzbekistan.
Amazing. All right. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you guys for watching. Research Compass. We give the direction to those who dare to explore. Goodbye.